Hi there, welcome to the Disability Law Show. James Fireman, Sivan, Tumarkin, and John Scholes. Welcome back. If it's your first time joining us, we're talking about disability rights and injury law. Lots of stuff to feed your head and make you smarter at the end of the show, so stick around. 1-855-821-5900 and disabilityrights.ca is a way to reach out. We'll get to some emails and phone calls from our radio show. Fellas, welcome back. Busy show, lots of things to get through, including the top 5 weaknesses insurance companies have that you need to know about. That's coming up here in just a bit. But first, we always start off, Sivan, with a week that was, if you will, something that's going on in the office. What's happening?
John, I just spoke today, actually, with a gentleman from Vancouver, because, you know, we do work across Ontario as well as BC. And this gentleman is 62 years old. He worked at a college there for many, many years. And he went off on disability back in 2015. First, he got short-term disability, and then he was moved into long-term disability. He has a family doctor that's been treating him for 40 years. He has a 40. He has a psychiatrist. He has a psychologist. He has several other doctors, all of whom he sees regularly for various issues, most of which are mental health issues. The nicest gentleman. And, you know, he suffered a concussion when he was younger, so he has memory loss issues. You can definitely tell when you speak with him that there is something wrong. So we communicate a lot with his wife. And of course, he goes on long-term disability with his insurance company, and at the 2-year mark, they cut him off. And why? Because they say that he can do some other occupation, not his own occupation. Remember, when you're on long-term disability, to qualify for LTD, you have to demonstrate medically with your doctor's support that for the first 2 years, you can't do your own occupation. And beyond the 2-year mark, you have to demonstrate that you can't do any occupation for which you're suited for by training, education, or experience. Well, they cut him off. And we started a legal claim. And I can tell you we're already in advanced negotiations, even though we just recently started the claim with his insurance company, who understands now very clearly, now that the claim has shifted internally within the insurance company after we got involved, they understand very quickly that the last thing they want is to have this case land before a judge. So the lesson here for people out there who are listening is that if you are told by your insurance company that your long-term disability benefits are being cut off at the 2-year mark, and you're not 63 years old, because most of these policies go to age 65, if you still can't do any occupation, if you have doctors who are telling the insurance company that you can't do any occupation, you should not be cut off. You should continue getting paid by your long-term disability insurer. But what do insurers do? They will cut you off, and they will hope they will walk away. They will hope that you will either walk away or appeal and then deny your appeal, and that's what we talk about on this show. So again, if you've been cut off or denied unjustly by your insurance company, please get in touch with us. It just takes a 5-minute phone conversation generally for us to tell you if you have a case or not against the insurance company.
James, welcome back, pal. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
We know how much you love the appeal process, right?
Absolutely.
Don't ever appeal.
No,
don't bother wasting your time, right?
No, as all of our viewers know, it's something that we advise all of our clients, everyone that talks to us. It is a waste of your time, and it is something that is simply giving the insurance company continued power.
Help at disabilityrights.ca and simply disabilityrights.ca if you want more details about the show and our radio show, which we've been hosting for years and years. We get good phone calls on the show. We like to play them back here and talk about them. So we'll get to the first phone call of the show right now.
So my question was about surveillance, how that gets sort of commissioned out. When it does, like, what's the value of that? Like, when an investigator gets any kind of photography or video evidence, how does that affect your claim?
It makes people antsy, right?
Well, John, I like to actually call the surveillance issue a ham sandwich. That's my shorthand for it. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So I have clients or potential clients call me and ask me about surveillance. They're worried because they think someone has been following them or that someone might follow them if they start a legal claim. And my advice is always the same. If you are being truthful with your doctors or with lawyers who are interviewing you, and you're listening to your doctor's advice and you're acting reasonably, then surveillance does not matter at all. If your doctor is telling you that you need to go out and swim once a week because that's going to be good for your recovery, and you go and do that, and there is an investigator following you, and they videotape you going to the local pool, if it's on your doctor's advice and you've been honest with everyone about what you're able to do and that you're in fact going to swim once a week, then who cares if they have video of you going to the pool? They might as well have video of you eating a ham sandwich. That's why I call it a ham sandwich. It matters not at all. As long as you are following your doctor's advice and you are being honest with everybody who you're talking to.
Is it that common? Do they do it with everybody? Because I can't imagine being that cheap to do, right? Or even you know, yielding fruit at the end of it, right?
It's not that common, but it's also not so infrequent that you don't see it. It comes up probably, I would say, maybe 25–30% of the time.
You know, John, there are really two reasons why they do surveillance. The first reason is to see if they can catch you doing something that they can then use against you. But the second reason is that as soon as you are aware that there's surveillance, I think, and this is my opinion, it's a pressure tactic. It's a bully tactic. I have no doubt that there have been claimants out there, legitimate claimants, who have decided to just disengage completely from the insurance company when they learn that there's surveillance on them. And remember, when they do surveillance on you, it's not like they have somebody outside your house 365 days a year. They don't. It is expensive. You know, when I used to work for insurance companies years and years ago, and I would order surveillance on claimants back then, I'll tell you, it would cost $1,000, maybe $1,500 a day to pay these investigators. And most of the time, they came up empty. Most of the time, what they caught or what they saw actually legitimized the claimant, what the claimant was saying. So James is absolutely right. But again, don't be bullied by that tactic. Don't be pressured by that tactic. If you are a legitimate claimant, the surveillance should not hurt you at all.
Got lots more coming up here. We'll take a short break. The top 5 weaknesses insurance companies have that you need to know, but I know you guys want to talk about these. 1-855-821-5900, disabilityrights.ca. More information there as well. Disability Law Show continues. Don't go anywhere.
You lost your job. They said they had a good reason, but you think you've been wrongfully dismissed. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Insurance companies deny long-term disability claims all the time. They give lots of excuses. Don't give up. I've seen it all. They've ignored your doctors, they've ignored you. You're angry and you're frustrated. But there's hope. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You lost your job. They only gave you 2 weeks of severance per year worked. But where can you find out what you're really owed?
I'm going to severancepaycalculator.com.
Find out how much you're owed right now. severancepaycalculator.com.
And welcome back. The Disability Law Show. John Scholes, Sivan, Tumarkin, James Fireman back. We are in your corner, protecting you and making you smarter when it comes to disability rights and injury law. I want to talk about insurance companies, guys, because that's one of the main focuses on the show each week. Want to get to this. Top 5 weaknesses insurance companies have that you need to know about. So we kind of narrowed down this list from probably 30, but we got the top 5 here. We're going to get to the first one. I don't know who's going to answer it, but one of you will at least start. Adjusters have a large number of files and don't know your case inside and out.
Yeah, that's true in virtually every case that comes across my desk. Very frequently, when we start a legal claim in every case, we're going to get the file from the insurance company. And as often as not, that file is going to be 1,000 or more pages, and that's not including all of the medical file. There's often large portions of the medical file that aren't in there. So to really know and understand the entire case, you need to read through that entire medical file and the entire insurance file, page by page, and understand what has happened chronologically. That's what we do. We do it quite meticulously, and I can guarantee you there's virtually no one on the insurance side that is doing it with that kind of care. Certainly not while your case is being adjusted, while you're still on benefits, or while they're determining whether or not to pay you benefits. But even after that, after we start a legal claim, it's very rare that we see the defense lawyers that are hired by the insurance company have the time to be able to go through the file. And I'm not being critical of them, they just don't have the time to do it. They're carrying way too many files. From the adjuster side, while the case is going on, the other big issue, you have these huge files and you have tons of turnover. we see very frequently one file will go through 4, 5, 6 adjusters over the course of a year. And there's just no way that an adjuster can get up to speed and know what's going on the file in a matter of, a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. If they're with it from the beginning, maybe if they're diligent, but not with that kind of turnover.
Number 2, guys, insurance companies care about the bottom line only. There's a shock.
Yeah, well, listen, we're not discovering America here for the viewers. This is common sense. Insurance companies care about profit, right? They have shareholders.
It's a company.
It's a company. It's like any other company, and they make their billions of dollars. But here's the thing: that can actually work to your advantage. So initially, when they deny your claim unjustly, it doesn't go for you. It doesn't help you because clearly they're doing something they're not supposed to do to save a buck, right? To see if you'll walk away, leaving the money, leaving the money they owe you in their pockets. But the reason why this actually helps you when we get involved is because once we start that legal process, and they then have to hire a defense lawyer, and that defense lawyer can be from a law firm outside, or it can be an internal lawyer that they have within their in-house department. It doesn't matter. Now, as I like to say, they are bleeding money. Now they have to pay a lawyer, whether it's a salary or an hourly rate. So we make it expensive for them to have to deal with your case. And once we do that, they're looking for any avenue, any possibility of resolving your case for less money, really. And I'll tell you, again, John, drawing back on my experience having worked for insurance companies, one of the first things that I used to do as a defense lawyer, not anymore obviously, but as a defense lawyer for insurance companies, is actually give them a litigation plan with a cost breakdown of how much money it's going to cost them to defend
your
the
bosses,
case.
You would give that to?
Yeah, I would give that to the insurance company when I used to work for them. So you have to understand that even though when they cut you off, they're cutting you off because they want to save money, that's also going to drive them to try and negotiate with us and try and resolve your claim and pay you what you're owed when we put the squeeze on them, because they know that if they don't come to the table and pay what you're owed, they're going to have to pay a lot more in legal costs, right? So important to understand that, it's a double-edged sword for them.
Reaching out, simple, 1-855-821-5900, disabilityrights.ca. We were talking about the top 5 weaknesses insurance companies have that you need to know about. Number 3 is simply this, guys. Insurance companies rely on a power imbalance. They know you're vulnerable, feeling weak, and they know it.
Yeah, we see that all the time. The power imbalance is obvious. We're talking about billion-dollar corporations that deal with disability law issues on a day-to-day basis. And so they know that you're vulnerable, and they also know that if they take advantage of that vulnerability, most people aren't going to fight back, either because they just don't understand what they're dealing with because they don't deal with disability law on a day-to-day basis, or because they simply don't have the wherewithal to do it, because their disability just makes it too difficult for them to fight back. The problem for them is once you start a legal claim, we get their entire file and everything is documented. Everything that they knew and every decision that they made is documented. And so when they take advantage of vulnerable people, as they often do, in ways that really are questionable in many cases and sometimes far beyond questionable, that exposes them, not just to having to pay the benefits that they ought to have paid initially, but also to what are called punitive damages. Essentially, money that they have to pay over and above what they would otherwise have to pay for the benefits because of how they've conducted themselves. Something a judge would punish them for, say you've acted improperly, and now you have to pay more money than you would have otherwise.
You know, it's funny, and it goes to just say as we continue on here that this is money owed to you. You keep saying that. You said it since day one, right? This is money. It's not a lottery.
No, it's money that's owed to you. And when they come to the table and they pay you the 100,000 or 300 or 500 or whatever it is, it's because they have to pay you. Now, I want to actually touch on something that James was talking about. This power imbalance. You know, when you hire a lawyer to help you fight the insurance company, what you're hoping to do is fix that power imbalance. You're trying to get that power back. And I think the worst thing you can do is hire the wrong lawyer or wrong law firm. So you should not be going to Joe, who does real estate law and family law and immigration and also disability law. You have to be very careful who you choose to fight for you against the insurance company, because otherwise, I'll tell you, you'll think that you fixed that power imbalance, but in effect, you've now solidified it because now the insurance company's lawyers are going to outmatch and outgun the lawyer you just selected. So be very careful on who you choose. And on that point, haven't you said before we move on, that once the insurance company gets the name of whatever firm, they put a certain amount of money aside. And, you know, when they get the Barney Rubble law firm, they're going to go,
not going to worry about it, but they get a firm like you, now they know they're in for more of a fight, right?
They know. They know which lawyers deal with this type of law. They know which lawyers have the resources, you know, they put, I mean, when we take on a file, we put the firm's resources, not just people, but money. You know, we have the experts that we go to. We want to make sure that when we take on your case, there is a team approach. And we're going to go all the way, and insurance companies know that. Again, remember, it comes back to this whole idea that it's going to cost them a lot of money to fight this, and our strategy is that if they take it all the way, they're going to lose. Right. So very, very important. They definitely know who they're up against.
Yeah, and to that point, when I used to do defense work a long time ago, it was one of the first things I would report to my client, who's on the other side. Right. And the reason it's one of the first things is because that is as significant a factor as anything in determining the final value. If it's going to be litigated in a competent manner, then the amount you're going to have to pay is going to be significantly more than if the person on the other side has no idea what they're doing.
Top 5 weaknesses insurance companies have that you need to know about. Number 4 is this, and we hear this one all the time on the news and everything else, that insurance companies, they focus on fraud and how rampant it is to dissuade legitimate claims.
Yeah, and I think that's part of this mirage that they're trying to build there. There's no question that there's fraud. Yep. There's no question that there are people who are making claims, insurance claims, and we read about that in the papers. You know, but what about the fraud that the insurance companies are you know, engaged in? And the fraud that I'm talking about is cutting off people when they know that the claims are legitimate. And how do we know that? Because as soon as we get involved and they get a lawyer defending the claim, we've had that more than times that I can count. The insurance lawyer will call us, and without even debating the issues, they'll say, okay, our client's willing to reinstate your client. Wow. They understand that there was a mistake that was done. You know, they won't say that on the record. So, you know, I don't buy this whole thing of, okay, because there's all this fraud, you know, therefore we should be cutting off legitimate claimants. That's really what we're here for. And the other thing is this, we're very selective on cases that we take on, because our reputation is very important to us, and that goes to the earlier point that insurance companies know that when we are representing someone, there is legitimacy in that claim, so they take it more seriously. There are firms out there, there are lawyers out there who take anyone and everything, even when they know that there is a problem with the case, the person's not being truthful, and you know what? Insurance companies know that, and so if you are, you know, if you've hired a lawyer like that or a firm like that, you are at a risk of your case, even though it's legitimate, being caught in that net of you know, insurance companies viewing your case along with all the other cases this person is handling and deem it a lesser value case.
The other thing I would say is, you know, I wouldn't trust the numbers that are being suggested by the insurance company in terms of fraud. It's actually a very, very small percentage of claims that are fraudulent. Now, I'm not saying all of the claims that are made are legitimate claims in the sense that they ought to be paid. Some of them should, some of them shouldn't. But you can make a legitimate claim that isn't paid because you just don't meet the definition. That doesn't mean it's fraudulent. When we're talking about fraudulent claims, and what the insurance companies are suggesting is happening is that people are outright lying, making things up, and that is incredibly rare. It happens, but it's very, very rare. And when you compare that to the profits insurance companies are making, and by the way, there are stories quite recently that show insurance companies making record profits.
Doing okay.
Yeah, they're doing fine. Yep. So let's keep our eye on the ball here. The issue is how the insurance companies are treating legitimate claims.
All right, guys, 5th and final one of the top 5 weaknesses insurance companies make you need to know about. Insurance companies make many mistakes with files.
Yeah, I don't know where to start with that. I mean, it's just emphatic. I mean, they make a ton of mistakes, and James touched on that before when he spoke about the amount of files that they're handling. Listen, these adjusters are overworked. You know, we can't say that they're all bad people. They're not. Just like in any industry, you have people who are good to deal with, people who are not. Many of these adjusters want to do the right thing, but they make a ton of errors, and we see those errors when we get their files, and we scan the you know, the insurance files, the notes, the records, and we see how they've cherry-picked from various reports, information, and you know, the information that they put together to justify the argument that the person should be denied their claim when legitimately the person cannot go back to work. This is what we seize on. And again, we see this day in and day out. This is what we do. So when they tell you that your claim is ending and you know that the policy should take you to age 65 and you're 50 or 55 or whatever, and your doctors are saying you can't work, you call us. You don't take whatever the insurance company, the adjuster, is saying at face value. You don't. In fact, you should be calling us beforehand, because usually there are red flags that you will see. So don't wait until that happens. Give us a call before. It costs nothing to talk to us to get the advice you need.
You know, I find this particular issue quite interesting, because what surprises a lot of people is that my focus when I'm negotiating a file is very rarely on my client. To me, in virtually every case, when I get to the stage where I'm negotiating settlement, to me, it's a given that my client is entitled to get their benefits. That's not the issue. The issue is how many times the insurance company has made mistakes or acted blatantly unfairly, and how exposed they are to having to pay punitive damages over and above what they certainly owe my client. And that's what my focus is. I go through the entire file, not trying to prove that my client is disabled. They are. That's a given. I'm trying to show all the ways that the insurance company is exposed. And I want to detail and catalog every single one of them. I don't want to let them off the hook for anything they've done.
Coming up here, what to do when a new adjuster disagrees with your LTD claim. We'll get to that and much more. 1-855-821-5900 to reach out, and disabilityrights.ca. Be right back. The Disability Law Show. Don't go anywhere.
You were being harassed, and when you said something about it, you're the one who lost your job. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
You've been denied long-term disability. You think you're powerless, but you have a lot more power than you think. I'll tell you a secret. It's a numbers game for the insurance company. They're betting on you walking away from money that they owe you. Don't make that mistake. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You thought you had a secure job. You didn't see it coming. Now what do you do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Hey, welcome back to the Disability Law Show. Another resource for you, including an email, which is simply help@disabilityrights.ca. is mydisabilityquestions.com. You can go there, ask your questions. They will be answered rather quickly by Sivan or James, or a member of the team. There's also a high probability that your question has already been asked and answered in depth. If not, leave one there, and these guys will answer it. Example, guys, this from Eric says, my friend has battled depression after being sexually harassed by his boss and has been on LTD for just over 2 years. The old insurance adjuster was great to deal with, but she is a new one and now says that she's not have been approved in the first place because her problem is a work issue. How about that? Can they just change their mind about that?
Well, they can change their mind. The question is, what can we do about that? Okay. So if they change their mind and now they say, look, we're now going to stop your benefits and maybe even ask for a repayment because we ought not to have paid you, we have a whole bunch of arguments in our arsenal. Now, what they're saying, and this is important to understand, is that if your disability arises from your employment, if you know, in reality, if they put you in a different environment tomorrow and you can function there, well, then you have an employment issue that we can help with because we have employment lawyers. It's not a disability issue.
Gotcha.
That said, in many instances, you have events at work, whether it's like the event here that this individual is ascribing, or a toxic work environment where the person has now, their symptoms have developed above and beyond the workplace. It doesn't matter where you're going to put them now. You can put them in a different environment, you can put them at home, whatever it is, they're still suffering and they can't work. In that case, no, they absolutely do deserve long-term disability payments. Now, what do you do in a situation like that, though, when the adjuster, there's a new adjuster, or even the same adjuster who now flip-flops and decides that it's something else? Well, listen, we can talk about the legal principle of waiver. We can say that, look, you've accepted that this person was disabled legitimately, and so now you can't retract, you can't go back. Right. And you know, this again goes to the point that James made earlier, which is that we go through their file once we start that legal claim against them if they've cut you off unjustly. We start looking at the process that they've come to their conclusions. And in a case like this, I can almost guarantee you that we're going to see many notes that don't make sense. Perhaps some notations of discussions internally between the adjusters. Chances are we're going to find things that we can use against them. But the one thing this person should not do is give up. Because if they've been paid for 2 years or almost 2 years or over 2 years and suddenly they're cut off for this reason, we can hit back and we can force them to pay.
Help@disabilityrights.ca is the email address, which we've mentioned several times during the show. We'll get to one for today. Martin writes in, says, guys, I've been a truck driver for over 25 years. I recently had heart surgery, which led to several complications, and I had to go on disability. After 4 months on LTD, my insurer said I should start working again, and then I can likely find a job at 60% pay compared to my current one. My doctor disagrees, but my LTD case manager won't budge. Is there anything else I can do?
First and foremost, Martin, you have to listen to your doctor. Your doctor is the only one that should be giving you medical advice. It shouldn't be coming from the insurance company or the adjuster. It certainly shouldn't be coming from a lawyer. You listen to your doctor when it comes to a medical decision, and whether or not you go back to work is in fact a medical decision, especially when the reason you're not working is because you are disabled. So only when your doctor says it's okay to return to work should you return to work. But the other issue here, the significant issue here, is that Martin has told us he's only been on LTD for 4 months, and in virtually every policy, unless it's a very unusual policy, the first 2 years that you're entitled to benefits, the definition of disabled, which allows you to receive the benefits, says that you're entitled to benefits if you can't return to your occupation.
Right.
And if the insurance company is saying, oh, you can find a job that will pay you 60%, and they're suggesting, you know, something else might be suitable for him, well, that's not what the policy says. It's only whether he can return to his own occupation. So if that's the basis for denial, that he could find some other job that would pay him 60%, even if that were true, which is probably questionable, even if that were true, it's totally irrelevant until 2 years.
We're not there yet.
No, it's 20 months away.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's certainly entitled to continue to be paid and must stay off work if his doctor is saying stay off work.
Again, mydisabilityquestions.com. Guys, let me slide another one in before we wrap for the day. Alexander writes in and says, my wife can't work due to an alcohol addiction. She's being treated now, but can't yet return to work according to her doctor, as you say. She applied for LTD last year, but was denied due to a lack of medical support for her illness. I thought there was no point in appealing, but after watching your show, I'm wondering if you should try to fight the denial. Is it too late to try?
So first of all, he's completely right. There's no point in appealing, right? These appeals that they invite you to do are worthless. Do not engage in them. But there's definitely value in challenging the insurance company's decision. Now, when an insurance company says we're rejecting your long-term disability application, or we are denying your claim, or cutting you off because of insufficient medical documentation or insufficient support for your disability, people think, oh my God, I just don't have enough. Maybe they're looking for something more. Maybe I need a different expert, whatever. No. If your doctor or doctors, or frankly, people who are treating you, it could be a psychotherapist, if these individuals write reports, I'm not talking about a paper napkin, right, where you say this person is disabled. I'm talking about more substantive, where they explain why it is you can't work. In this case, it's an alcohol addiction. There is no reason why the insurance company is ignoring that. I think the only reason why the insurance company would be ignoring it, if in fact they receive those kinds of reports, is because they're assuming or hoping that this person, that his wife, Alexander's wife, is going to walk away from the claim. Because, you know, they have so much to deal with, right? I mean, she's dealing with her addiction. It's all consuming for the family. So they simply assume, well, these individuals are not going to fight back. So Alexander is right. You don't appeal, but we definitely want to fight back because we can force them to pay.
Final words. What do you think, James?
Well, I like every show to leave our viewers with a little bit more information. And one of the issues that comes up occasionally is if somebody has a disability that hasn't been properly diagnosed at this point in time, and often early on that's the case. The medical community may just not have been able to pinpoint exactly what the issue is. And we will find in those cases where someone is suffering from some disability, but they don't know what the root cause of that is. They don't have a formal diagnosis, that they'll get denied their benefits. And for exactly that reason, the insurer will say, well, you don't have a formal diagnosis, so sorry, you're not entitled to your benefits. They're not allowed to do that. They simply are not allowed to do that. And this isn't my opinion. This is coming from the Supreme Court of Canada. The focus is on your symptoms, and when you're looking at disability benefits, it's just a matter of whether you have symptoms that are preventing you from doing your occupation. That's it. If the medical community doesn't have a name for it yet, so be it. You're still entitled to your benefits.
All right, guys, we're good for another day. Appreciate you hanging out with us. You want to call and reach out, 1-855-821-5900. help@disabilityrights.ca is the email. The website is disabilityrights.ca, and also mydisabilityquestions.com. There's all kinds of places for you to reach out and contact these guys anytime you want. We will see you again next time on the Disability Law Show.